Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video I'm going to be picking up and testing out the new pistol that is coming to the game. It is the War of Champions special weapon, and it is going to be named after the winners of the last War of Champions. It is called the Walker's Savage War of Champions Season 3 Revolver. I have purchased it, of course, and this is what it is like. It has a 35% attack base, a huge bonus to AP when attacking. In the third slot, it has a unique special, attack up versus debilitating. When attacking an enemy with a debilitating effect, gain 50% attack. In the last slot, it has a 1535 upgrade, giving adjacent and the character obviously holding this weapon 15% attack and 35 crit bonus. Now, you can pick up this weapon in the store. It isn't just exclusive to War of Champions participants. I initially thought it actually was. I had to go back and look at the post when it was originally announced. But apparently it's going to be open to everybody. Now, when this was originally announced, I kind of assumed it would come out and be extremely expensive. I assumed up to like $60, $80, maybe even $100. But the price is actually not too bad, all things considered. What we normally see in RTS is much more expensive numbers, and it is very comparable to some other games I play where you can buy weapons, and it seems actually a lot more reasonable. But how good is the weapon itself, and how does it work? And I'm going to be using a couple of different characters, but I'm always going to be using a Mercer lead just because he gives a debilitating status effect off of turn 1. If you've got Trader, same sort of deal, whereas Trader's is RNG, Mercer's is guaranteed to have a stun proc whether it gets resisted or not. Obviously you can't use Mercer in wars and stuff now, but this is just for tests. A debilitating status effect is a status effect that stops a character from using part of their kit. So it's things like Impair, Stun, Daze, Normalize, Confuse, Taunt, and I think that's it. It's 6. There's 6 of them. It's the 4 key ones plus Daze and Normalize, I believe. So they are quite prevalent. They are going to be around. Characters are going to generally be under this sort of thing on an attack team. You should have characters on your teams that actually have these going, and this is primarily a attack team weapon for sure. So first off, we're going to use the Gentleman. I've seen a lot of people talk about the potential of using it in the Gentleman's hands. Will it stack with the specialist skill? How effective is it? You know, how much of a boost? etc. What I'm going to do is I'm going to equip 2 separate weapons. We're going to attack with normal weapons first, where it's going to give no bonuses, so you just get to see the baseline, and then we'll attack with the brand new weapon afterwards. So the weapon we're going to attack with first is basically the same in terms of the amount of attack it's going to have. It's got 40% instead of 35%, and it's got 1535. I have to just make sure this third slot here doesn't actually give the Gentleman 20% attack, and then we can test out this weapon. It will get slightly better damage regardless on this, but it'll be kind of obvious if we're going to be getting procs or not on that third slot with his basic attacks, signature move, and rush. We're also going to be taking Glenn and Rick just to make it so I can rush faster if I need to, and it also means that the buff is more likely to go to someone else. As you can see, Gentleman is unbuffed. We've got the basic weapon. If we do a basic attack, a crit hits for about 13,500, and then if we do another basic attack and not crit, it hits for about 8,500 to 9,000. Now with the new pistol, you can see that we are going to be able to attack a stunned character. And the thing with Gentleman is he's going to get the boost from his specialist skill and the weapon, but he was already getting the bonus from his specialist skill with the basic attacks previously. So before it was between 8,500 and 9,000 for a non-crit, and around about 13 to 14,000 on a crit. When we attack now, you can see a crit goes up to 21k, so that's a hefty boost. We know that it's definitely getting quite a boost from the basic attack. But will it get a boost on the signature move? Does it work with signature moves, or is it only going to be with attacks? The wording makes out that it potentially will not work with his signature move, any signature moves that deal damage, or any rushes that just deal damage rather than deal attacks. So back on the pistol that does not have the new status effect, and we're just going to see the sort of damage that the signature move does. This is flat damage, so it's easy to calculate. It can't crit. 26,000, so If it's going to give a bonus, it should be quite a lot more than that. If it's between 25 and 27k, it's not giving any bonuses at all. And while we're holding the same weapon, we'll also rush to sort of see the damage output here. And we're going to do all against the same character. And it's going to be around about 67,000. So again, if it gets boosted, it should be very, very noticeable. Back on the new pistol, we're going to select Rick again, do the signature move. And it is going to do the same sort of damage that the previous weapon was doing. So he's not getting any bonus from the third slot on this weapon. It doesn't work with his signature move, and that means it most likely is not going to work with his rush either. And here's the adrenaline rush. This time we're going to rush Rick, and last time I believe we hit for around about 67,000. So if it hits for the same sort of number, then it's going to be the same sort of deal, and it's going to hit for around about the same sort of number, 71,000. It's not the 50% increase that we had on the basic attacks, where it went from 14,000 up to 21,000. So this weapon definitely does not work on the third slot with any characters that have deal damage on their signature moves or their rushes. And if we just go into Gentleman's Kit, you can see that his rush deals damage rather than attacks an enemy. And you can see exactly the same for his adrenaline rush, deals damage rather than attacks an enemy. This means it can't crit, and in this case, it can't take advantage of that third slot on the weapon. So which characters can take advantage of this? I've limited this to damage dealers primarily, but there are 2 support characters that potentially could do some damage as well. Characters like Davey can utilize it for his adrenaline rush, signature move, and of course basic attacks. All of these characters can utilize it for basic attacks. Gentleman cannot utilize it for his rush or signature move. Shiva cannot utilize it for her rush, but can for her signature move. Eugene cannot for his rush, but can for his signature move. Sam and Tom cannot for his rush or signature move because his signature move does no damage. And this is the biggest downside, because the characters that you think would actually benefit from this the most are going to be characters that have the Cutthroat Specialist, and neither of the Cutthroat Specialists can utilize this weapon, which is very disappointing indeed. Laurie, on the other hand, can utilize it with her rush, signature move, and basic attacks, as can Dwight and as can Sandy. So potentially these characters that are a little bit older can have a bit more utilization now, especially characters like Laurie, who I know some people have got their hands on recently. It could be very nice for her, because once she takes a character out, then defense down comes onto the defense team. And if you do have the right setup, you've got much more chance of getting that to actually proc. So it could actually work in towards some decent teams. If you really wanted to as well, you could use it on Axel if you wanted to still utilize a silver character, because it will work on his rush, signature move, and basic attacks as well. So just to show you this in action, we are going to do exactly the same with the signature move. Now, if it does take out Rick with one shot, it potentially won't. We are not going to ignore the second shot, because it's going to go up against a defense down character, and they're going to take much bigger damage because of that. Now, just to remind you that her rush and her signature move work exactly the same way. It's 2 attacks, so I'm only going to show you the signature move. They work exactly the same way. It will just be amplified. It will just be bigger damage because her rush does higher percentage damage. So the first attack mainly we're going to look at here, and the first attack is around about 20 to 23,000. The second attack was a lot lower just because it was proccing her execution, so ignore that. But a crit was around 20 to 23,000. Let's see what it's like with the new weapon, and hopefully this is going to be amplified up to at least 30, maybe 35,000 damage. So here we are again, and we're going to select Rick. This time we should one-shot him realistically if we hit the crit. And it looks like we have taken him out, and it is 36,000. And then we get the free attack onto somebody else. Now the free attack didn't hit a crit, but it nearly hit for as much as the other attack we did previously did. So yeah, but you can see the sort of difference it would have made if the Gentleman could have had this, because the base attack that we had previously on Laurie's signature move was hitting as hard as Gentleman's basic attacks, because he has that specialist skill. And I think that's honestly one of the biggest letdowns with this weapon. If it could be used on a character that had the Cutthroat Specialist, this weapon would be so good to buy for the Gentleman or for Sam and Tom. it would have been an amazing weapon for those characters. And any character, realistically, it is really good for Laurie. But I think most people are looking at these more recent characters and just trying to push the line as much as possible. But because those characters don't have the multi-hits, they're just flat deal damage, there's no amplification there, unfortunately. Now, we never know what's going to come out in the future. There could potentially be a character down the line that works with this weapon with that specialist skill. But with the characters we have right now, I've already shown you the ones where it will work. Now, is this weapon worth it? You can get up to 50% attack total on the main stat, and that's basically what you would want. However, it will only be a small boost over a weapon like this. But percentages are percentages. I'm someone who looks at like extra 5% here can make a big difference. And you're getting 2 extra 5%. So you're getting a 5% in the first slot, and you're getting a 5% in the third slot. It is also much more likely to proc because it isn't based on an enemy's HP. It's just based on them being controlled in some way. And that can be influenced by your characters that you take with them. So for instance, if you use William on an attack team, he dazes 3 off the first turn, you're automatically getting a debilitating status effect instantly. And there are a bunch of characters that have first turn controls, like Diamond with stuns, Trader with his stun potential. So a lot of characters that can get that control off on turn 1. So getting that damage boost is not going to be difficult. I think most people just look at this weapon and just, even if they bought it and are happy with it and are using it, would still be fairly disappointed that it wasn't going to work with adrenaline rushes that don't deal multi-attacks. Especially as those rushes and signature moves can't crit in the first place. They need somewhere to get that boost from, and this would have been the perfect weapon. But it is what it is. I think it's still worth picking up. If you don't see $20 being too big a deal, then I would say definitely pick it up. It is already massively upgraded, 5% upgrades. It doesn't matter if you're brand new to the game or a veteran, that is easy to get. You just keep resetting until you get it to 50% attack, and then you've got that perfect weapon. It will also go dark blue if you are very interested in the colorization of the background. You know, right now it's legendary. With 2 upgrades of 5%, it will go to that teal light blue color. And then when you do the last one, it will go to 650 score, and it will go to dark blue. So it will look nice and pretty in your inventory, that's for sure. So that was just some tests and my thoughts on the weapon itself, guys. Have you managed to pick this weapon up? Do you think it's good? Have you got any character ideas for, you know, actually using this weapon? Are you waiting for the actual character to come along to use this weapon on? Potentially, could this bring back some old characters? Is this the Sandy reboot that we potentially could have had? I don't think so. I don't think so. Sandy's damage is a bit too underpowered still, but I think Laurie definitely could have some usability, especially just the fact that this has a much better guarantee of her getting a turn 1 takedown and then that defense down going to everybody. If you've got Trader after that, obviously he'd get the proc on his rush, defense down on his rush. You could potentially take out like 4 in the first turn with all that defense down. Not too bad at all. But leave your thoughts in the comments down below, guys, about this weapon. That is the end of my video. I want to thank you very much for tuning in. And as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.